The Chicago Bulls ended their playoff hopes in Miami in a fashion that's become kind of comfortable for the team this season. They blew chances in the fourth quarter, they went cold down the stretch, and they just couldn't keep up with the Heat's physicality on both ends. That's kind of been the story this season. A lot of games that they were close in, almost down to the wire, but they blew it in the end. And that happened quite a few times this season against good teams, and it's not surprising that it happened in the play-in tournament when the chance to be the 8th seed was on the line. What's up, guys? I'm Ross. This is another video recapping the Bulls season, talking about the play-in loss in Miami, and some of the other stories that are kind of circulating in the news right now about the Bulls as we head into this offseason here. So, as we know, the Bulls lost. It was a tough game. They were close. They really did have a chance to win there in Miami. And we saw some good contributions off the bench from players like Coby White and Andre Drummond, even Derrick Jones Jr. a little bit. It was interesting that, you didn't see any more of Coby White and Drummond down the stretch in the fourth quarter when the team went cold. They were kind of the guys that were running the engine there in the third quarter, it felt like. So it was a tough loss, and like I said, it was kind of an encapsulation of how they had played all season long in close games. They would go cold down the stretch for a team that last season was so good in the clutch and has, all these supposedly really good clutch players and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. They just couldn't get it done, and it was tough to see. Zach took a lot of hate. He took a lot of criticism on social media specifically. After the game, I kind of had to put my phone down. I was like, all right, man, y'all are kind of tripping a little bit. If you think about the reason we're even in that game, Zach LaVine went nuclear in the first playing game in Toronto. So it's like, we're not in that situation without Zach, and especially, towards the end of the season, just his overall play as of late, he's such an important player for this team. So not his best game, of course, we understand that, but can't really, go the complete extreme opposite and say that, he's the problem. It was a tough game, and, players will have tough games. It's unfortunate that it happened in such an important game. Those turnovers really hurt. So we're hopeful that Zach learns from this experience. The team as a whole isn't very great, so it's not like I'm going to say it's all him. There's plenty of other people and players and coaches who deserve a share of the blame for the way this season ended up. So Zach LaVine definitely shares some of that, but definitely interesting, talking about the minutes in the rotation with Coby White and Andre Drummond. In his end of season press conference, Coby White talked about how he's interested in getting a starting role. He's a restricted free agent this offseason. I've already talked on my channel about how I think the Bulls should re-sign him. I talk about it on my Twitter account all the time. Make sure to follow me at Shy Sports Ross on Instagram and Twitter. But yeah, Coby White, he's a big part of this rotation. He was a big part of that game, and I don't think they're even close in that game without his contributions. So that'll be interesting to see this offseason. Patrick Beverley's already expressed his desire to get a bigger contract. We know that the league is upping the minimum league exception, or the minimum level exception, whatever that is, for the salary cap. So teams will have a little more spending flexibility. And that'll probably be the Bulls, because they're not going to be one of those tax-paying teams, most likely. We'll see how things shake out, with Vucevic as well. But it's just interesting to see, Patrick Beverley wants this starting role and all this money. Coby White now is kind of emerging, and he wants this starting role, and he's going to command a certain amount of money. So it's like, which situation do you want? And you've got Ayo Dosunmu kind of hanging in the background there of he's going to get his own little contract too. In Arturas Karnisovas's end of season press conference, he talked about wanting to re-sign all of these guys. So we'll see. Ayo, I think, maybe lower on the priority list, but Coby, I think, might be ready to be the guy to take that starting role. I know I've teased it before. I'm still working on a video to break down some of Coby White's play this season, to talk about why he might deserve that starting role. But with Patrick Beverley, it's like he was a good late season addition, but I'm not quite sure he's the point guard of the future. I'm not sure if you want to give him a certain amount of money, especially with Lonzo not coming back next season. you're going to want someone probably that you've developed in-house. Like Coby White's kind of the perfect solution, I would say. So the Bulls have a situation there with Coby White's contract where it's a little more advantageous for the team to try to retain him. So hopefully they're able to work something out, because I'd really like to see Coby White stay in Chicago personally. Speaking of players staying in Chicago, Derrick Jones Jr., his player option was talked about a little bit. It sounds like he's probably going to opt in. And we know Andre Drummond has a player option as well. It'll be interesting to see what he ends up doing. He might opt out. He could probably get a little bit more money. He had a nice season. Derrick Jones Jr., though, a player that was definitely important in the rotation, but towards the end of the season, it seemed like he was a healthy scratch a lot of the time. He was healthy and he wasn't playing, but when he did play, he was always ready to go, and he made important contributions off the bench, I would say. He's one of those versatile players who can hit the three, but he's also able to defend down low and use his length to play as like a small ball four, even a five sometimes. Kind of in that Patrick Williams similar vein. So like, it's good to have that player off the bench. It was interesting that Billy Donovan took him out of the rotation. A player who provides, again, a lot of versatility, a lot of length, against teams in the East that have a lot of length. So hopefully he's a part of the rotation, because it sounds like he's going to be sticking around. So he's definitely a player to watch next season, I would say. And, with that said, I think Billy Donovan as a whole has taken some criticism just for his management of rotations, lineups, players. I know the players really like him. Players seem to speak highly of him, despite what certain media members might report about Zach LaVine specifically. But it seems like the players do respond to Billy Donovan and they enjoy playing for him. I would just question maybe some of his decision making in game. His inability to make adjustments sometimes. The rotations being kind of suspect with regard to players who are healthy. Javonte Green is another one of those guys who was healthy and wasn't getting any kind of run. Obviously he was returning from an injury, but still, it's one of those things where the team was struggling with certain things that those guys are good with. Derrick Jones Jr. specifically with his defense. So they were, I think, missing that for certain stretches of the season. They ended up fixing it towards the end of the regular season, at least. But again, as I've mentioned multiple times throughout this video, we saw the loss in Miami kind of encapsulating what was wrong with the team this season. And Billy Donovan, again, took that criticism for not being able to manage those lineups and not putting players in positions to succeed. So headed into the offseason, headed into next season, he has kind of I don't want to say a bad reputation, but it's certainly lukewarm in Chicago right now, especially with that contract extension that was secret over the offseason last year. So apparently he's around to stay for a long time. And, that just kind of felt premature for a guy who hadn't really done a whole lot yet. Going to the playoffs in his second season was definitely a big step, but we saw the step that the roster took. So, that was kind of what we would expect after you make those big additions to the team. So Billy Donovan on his own, I don't think has earned, a huge contract extension. I like the development of Coby White. I like the development of Patrick Williams. I'm not here just to crap on Billy Donovan, of course, but I think it was premature. Doing it in private was weird. Like, why are we doing that again? That feels like some Garpax shit. I don't care for it. And I hope that that's not a trend of the future where they're making these weird decisions and not announcing it until months and months later. That just makes, us as fans feel like, okay, what are you guys hiding? What is happening that makes you feel the need to do this in private or in secret? So just food for thought as we head into the offseason and next season for Billy Donovan. It's kind of an interesting situation. I think in my opinion, he has kind of, he has to win us over still. And the front office saw it differently. They saw it that they had already been won over. So we'll see what ends up happening. I don't think they're going to fire him. I know that some people want that. That's just not going to happen this offseason. But we'll see what ends up happening over the offseason and then next season to see, what his future in Chicago might look like. They don't like to fire coaches and then hire new coaches. They don't like to pay guys to go away in Chicago. So kind of keep that in mind. Another thing that kind of popped up too, speaking of the offseason, was the lottery, the NBA draft lottery, which is happening soon. The Bulls won a tiebreaker. They actually won something. Wow. Damn. They won a tiebreaker with the Thunder. They have better odds now to move up. Better in heavy quotations. They have 1.8% odds to land the top overall pick to get Victor Wembanyama, the next generational player, or an 8.5% chance to keep their pick and land in the top 4 of the draft. So tough stuff, not great odds, probably not going to happen. That pick is probably headed to Orlando, part of the Vucevic trade, but you know, just something to throw out there. Don't want to make anyone get their hopes up too much. Don't do that to yourselves. Please don't do that to yourselves. I'm asking you, don't do it to yourselves. We don't need to put all of our hopes and dreams on that 1.8. Now, I know it's happened before, so I'm not going to say never. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm just going to ask you, I'm going to implore you, don't hurt yourself. If it happens, let it be a surprise, because it's probably not going to happen. But hey, weirder things have happened. And, you know, if that were to happen, it would change everything. So that would be kind of lit. I won't lie. With that said, though, I'll let you guys go. I've talked for a little bit here, just kind of wrapping things up for the Bulls after that loss in Miami. Wanted to get some more thoughts out. Wanted to get back in front of the camera again. It was good to be in front of the camera in the last video. It's good to do it again. So thank you guys for hanging on, watching these videos with me. Again, make sure to follow me, Shy Sports Ross, on all the platforms, TikTok too, Instagram, Twitter, and right here on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe. Definitely more content coming soon. Want to be a little more consistent with it as we head into an uncertain off season, as I've said before. So, thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll talk very soon.